They say the darkest just before the dawn. That thought keeps me. That thought keeps me moving on. If we could heed these early warnings, time is now. The time is now. Quiet early morning. Quiet early morning. If we could heed these early warnings, time is now. The time is now. Quiet early morning. They say that humankind won't long endure, but what makes them? But what makes them so doggone sure? I know that you who hear my singing can make those freedom bells go ringing. I know that you who hear my singing can make those freedom bells go ringing. And so we'll stand up while we live until we have no more, until we have no more to give. And when my fingers can strum no longer this old guitar, and this old guitar, two young ones stronger. And when my fingers can strum no longer, give this old guitar, two young ones stronger. They say it's darkest. They say it's darkest just before the dawn. Just before the dawn, that's what keeps us. And that's what keeps on moving on. Moving on through all this world of joys and sorrows. We still can have singing tomorrows. Singing tomorrows through all this world of joy and sorrow. We still can have singing tomorrows. They say it's darkest just before the dawn. That thought keeps us. That thought keeps us moving on. If we could heed these early warnings, time is now. The time is now. Quiet early morning. Quiet early morning. If we could heed these early warnings, time is now. The time is now. Quiet early morning. Thanks, Pete.
Thanks, Annie. Yeah. Welcome to All Souls Unitarian Universalist Church. I'm Steve Wilson. I'm delighted to be here today. It's always a joy. I just like coming in here. Today's service is about Jesus. It's sort of a kind of pre-Easter, right? Which is, we'll call it Palm Sunday, but I think of, this is my Easter with you, at least. And so I want you to just look around and look to the four corners, as the notes say, and greet one another and say hello. And while you're doing that, I'm going to, greet one another. Coming up right here on April 7th is a kind of a big deal. There's a Nobel Prize winning
morning, everyone.
Winner who's talking about regarding climate change, talking about forests. And you've probably heard Pam on and on about the forests and the importance of the big trees, and you're going to hear a little bit more of that. But that's a big deal, and that's coming up here at 10:30 in 2 weeks. So save the date for that. And Pam has flyers if you want a reminder of that. And Robin has the flyers. And I know that I think also some of the Berniston Church is trying to maybe arrange it so they come down here for that as well. So Dr. Muma is a treat, and you know, I would imagine you'll be honored to have him, and you know, he's got wisdom. You don't win Nobel Prizes for doing what I do. So there we are. When I was a 13-year-old, I drove my mother crazy. I was a church kid, and I drove my mother crazy, questioning the connection between our loincloth-clad Jesus and the polished shoes and combed hair my mother demanded on those Episcopal church mornings. Come on, Ma, I would say, with scholarly intent that I didn't quite have at the moment. If Jesus can walk around looking like he does, certainly I can at least wear sneakers to church, you know. But at my home, like through all of Western history, the forces of orthodoxy always won. Not today, not here. Today I wrote this sermon as kind of a confessional. And I wrote it a long time ago. I wrote it in response to Mel Gibson's Passion of the Christ story, which was a big hit or a, you know, big disaster, however you want to think about it, 15 years ago. And it was released, and it prompted me to write this sermon called I Get to Give an Award, basically a Lifetime Achievement Award to Jesus at the Oscars. So it's kind of a fantasy service. So there's that. And I'm going to invite up Lily. Come on up, Lily, and Lily's going to light our chalice for us. And I want you to join in with me, if you don't mind, in reading these words while Lily lights that. We light this chalice in dedication to the heroic image we're presented with in Jesus, a man the writers of the Christian story hand us, who had a mix of courage and compassion, and a man with wisdom and a sense of prophetic justice. And she's going to light our little chalice right there.
We'll wait. Am I still on? Yes.
And maybe, Lily, you can also light one of those candles over there to give us a head start on the red ones right there while you're working so hard.
For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are.
We're going to pause for a moment of silence for those who lost the 133, at least that's the tally now, for who've lost their lives in an assault in Moscow from ISIS-K, it appears. For all those families and for all the people who... We know how fragile life is, and to have it stripped away so senselessly is just a pattern of human behavior we must bring to an end. Amen. Edward Searle says this. This is, again, in my mind, a pre-Easter service. I love this poem. He says, there was no sudden dawn this morning. The change from night to day was gradual, rather than clear light spilling over the earth's edge and bright colors smeared across the horizon. There was a subtle changing, as there is every day. The lessening darkness assumed lighter tones of gray. Even now, he says, there is a grayness to the day. Through our heart of hearts, we wish for the drama of a sudden dawn, when night abruptly bursts today and we shout hallelujah. We might not be disappointed with a gradual dawning, a subtle changing drawn in tones of gray. For many, Easter and this Holy Week is a sudden dawning as clear and bright as it is sudden. For me, Easter is a gradual dawning, drawn in tones of gray. It takes place over a lifetime for a person, takes place over eons for our race, yet there's always an ever-lessening darkness. May that be true. Please join me in our congregational covenant printed in our bulletin here. In this house, we covenant with one another to create a community built on a foundation of love, to work together to promote equality, justice, and peace, accepting responsibility for our individual acts, to stand on the side of love, embracing the liberation of the oppressed, and working to end discrimination and unjust privilege, to communicate with kindness and support, and to serve with compassion and commitment, to listen respectfully and value our diversity as a source of our collective strength, to learn and grow together, generously sharing our time, talents, and treasures, celebrate the joys of discovery from the wonder of youth to the wisdom of age, to openly share our laughter and our tears, showing reverence for the divine in all that is. You could do worse. You could do worse for sure. Annie's gonna sing a Joan Osborne song called "One of Us" that you.
It was Jewel actually that wrote it. So, but if anybody knows,
Oh.
I actually passed out what I call my hymnal pages.
Yeah, there's sheets out there if you have one.
It isn't for this one, but
Oh.
it's for another. But let me see what we got here. I came across this song and I just thought, wow, anybody knows it that can sing along with me.
Yeah.
God had a name, what would it be, and would you call it to his face? If you were faced with him in all his glory, what would you ask if you just had one question? Yeah, 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 God is great. Yeah, yeah, God is good. Yeah, 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 yeah. What if God was one of us? Just a slob like one of us. Just a stranger on the bus, trying to make his way home. God had a face, what would it look like, and would you want to see? If seeing meant that you would have to believe in things like heaven and in Jesus and the saints and all the prophets. Yeah, yeah, God is great. Yeah, yeah, God is good. Yeah, 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 yeah. What if God was one of us? just a slob like one of us, just a stranger on the bus trying to make his way home. Just trying to make his way home, back up to heaven all alone. Nobody calling on the phone except for the Pope in Rome. And yeah, God is great. Yeah, God is good. Yeah. What if God was one of us? Just a slob like one of us, just a stranger on a bus trying to make his way home, just trying to make his way home, like a holy rolling stone, back up to heaven all alone, just trying to make his way home. Somebody calling on the phone, just trying to make his way home, like a holy rolling stone.
Thomas Jefferson, thank you, Annie, as many of you may know, had a deist and kind of Unitarian leanings. We claim him. Why not? Minus the slave-holding part. In addition to being one of the United States' chief political and intellectual architects, probably the main one, perhaps, in his spare time, he also decided to rewrite the New Testament with something of a Unitarian and a humanist slant. It's called the Jefferson Bible. You're probably familiar with it. Here's one of the things he said about the Gospels. He said, the whole history of these books, referring to the Gospels, is so defective and doubtful that it seems in vain to attempt minute inquiry into it. And such tricks have been played with their text and with the text of other books relating to them, that we have a right from that cause to entertain much doubts which parts of them are genuine. In the New Testament, there is internal evidence that parts of it have proceeded from an extraordinary man, and that other parts are the fabric of very inferior minds. It is as easy to separate those parts as to pick diamonds from dunghills. Thomas Jefferson. There you go. And always a little comedy here on the entry to the offertory. And there was a couple, and they got along pretty well. And I gotta find my joke here. Hold on. I'm blaming Annie just because it seems like something I could do. Oh, God. She was early. All right, so I'll change my joke since I can't find that. All right, so Jesus comes back, and he's like in churches, and he's like, well, what are you guys doing? He goes, it's the start of Holy Week. Jesus is like, well, what's Holy Week? And he goes, well, when you came in on Palm Sunday, we celebrate that, right? We walked in on the palms. Did you remember that? He's like, yeah, that was a great day. I loved that. It was my favorite day of the whole week. It all went downhill from there. And then they tell him about the temple and him turning over the stuff, and they tell him about, the Last Supper and Maundy Thursday and the whole thing. And he says, then, like, that big day on Friday, what do you guys call that? And they're like, Good Friday? He's like, damn. Give generously for the life and work of this church. Play us Wade in the Water there, Annie, would you?
Okay.
While we collect our dues.
Wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Well, I said wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Well, I said, who them children dressed in white? Wade in the water. Well, it must be the children of the Israelites. Wade in the water. I'm singing wade in the water. Wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Well, who's them children dressed in black? Wade in the water. Well, them be my children and we're not turning back. Wade in the water. Well, I said wade in the water. Wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Well, I said, who them children dressed in red? Wade in the water. Well, it must be the children that Moses led. Wade in the water. Well, I said, wade in the water. Wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Well, I said, who them children dressed in blue? Wade in the water. Well, those are my people and they're coming on through. Wade in the water. Well, I said, wade in the water. Wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Well, I said, wade in the water. Wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water.
Woo! Thank you. Thank you for your gifts, individually and together. Acts like this in church. This church works to build a world of peace, of justice, love, and joy. And each of you, by all the times and commitments and treasures, and we do that. We do it this way, together, singing, talking, sharing important things, honoring the dead. Thanks for being here. So Mel Gibson wrote, Passion of the Christ, and Michael Moore got famous doing sort of value-laden services, and it kind of got me right, it's just a long time ago. And I thought, people don't really go to church that much, at least our people, like they used to, right? And I thought, okay, what moment could we talk about Jesus where more people would hear it? And I thought the Oscars. So I had this reoccurring daydream that I went with, and I thought, it's like a religious gala, red carpets, paparazzi, the works. I imagine people like Julian of Norwich, the middle-aged mystic, decked out in Armani. It was just fun, so I played with it. I see the Buddha getting out of a limo, and on the corner, Joan Rivers is standing aghast that our own Henry David Thoreau shows up with Margaret Fuller in an arm embrace. I imagine myself giving the church father Origen from way back in the day one of those hip, like, bro hugs that you give him, for being such a brave, Origen was a universalist in spirit. And in this daydream, because I went with it, I decided that I get to present Jesus with a Lifetime Achievement Award. It's a nice fantasy. I get to be self-inflated, a kind of a gadfly, and from the safety of the 21st century, I can align myself with the history of soulful heretics that I want to bring, honor, who've talked about Jesus and sort of usually get squelched. The more I linger over it, the more I don't want to waste this opportunity, as fun as it may seem. I want the moment to be meaningful. So before the millions watching, I want to raise the questions before our primarily Christian nation, and increasingly Christian nationalist nation, never asked. This is an incredible moment for all of us. Just how did Christianity, I want to say, get so conservative when on our desk was such a revolutionary? We likely know a little bit about the story of the account of how Jesus gets turned into the authorities in both ways. What many can't account is how the tale in Gethsemane of how he got turned into such an authority. I want on the Oscar stage in my tux to respectively raise the question of how did humanity so consistently mistake Jesus as an expression of the universe's divine stream for its source, which would draw some boos, no doubt, but there we are. I think about poignantly pounding the podium and saying it's bad for us to give Jesus all the credit or his father when something good happens, yet everything's our fault when things get ugly or go wrong. I just want you to imagine this at the Oscars. I want you to think Jesus, who I begin to imagine is sort of there, sitting there like in a roast, flowing locks, tussled just perfectly by the stylists backstage. I think he would probably nod in agreement, but part of me wonders if that church boy in me would have the guts to say these things with him next to me. It's a daydream that has some legs, that has some meat to it. I want to use my 15 minutes of fame to give voice to the struggle all our UU forebears had. The Donatists and the Pelagians and the Arians, if you know that history at all. The Socinian brothers and sisters in Poland who were also courageous and got killed or silenced for their heretical words. It's a rare moment, the Oscars. I don't want to waste it. I want to capture the honor and the anxiety of a former Methodist theology professor of mine, this woman who confided that she spent half the week elated by her capacity to pass down the Christian tradition and the other half depressed by her support for a church that locks up truth in tight packages. I want to say something that'll heal the many people in the audience who have painful memories of the church's history of hypocrisy and oppression. And I want to use this moment to speak to those many within our own UU tradition who, in leaving their Christian roots behind, have lost a trusted friend, and yet someone they've failed to replace or even mourn the loss of. I want to remind the audience that despite all the corruptions of the likes of Calvin and Jonathan Edwards and the Falwell Robertsons of the world, that Jesus remains a real gem, a real icon. Washing over me in this moment, right? I'm standing there is this cocktail of love and prophetic righteousness and a little bit of fear. I would like to say that even though many of my UU brothers and sisters out there may feel relegated to stand at the back of the line of those who would admit to admiring Jesus, they might not be so trapped in not believing in the Jesus they don't believe in anymore, to stand up and redeem the Jesus that they're moved by. I feel a gut need to walk the line between prophecy and paying tribute, to use humor but without being offensive. So my short speech, as I'm preparing for this thing and I'm thinking about it all, it's kind of part roast, it's part long overdue eulogy. Jesus never really got a eulogy for a guy who lost his life at 30-ish, somewhere in there. Jesus was stripped of his life at 30. Finally, the big night arrives, and Jesus, my hero, is sitting next to me in a front row. If you can imagine it, there's Peter, there's Mary Magdalene, there's Paul, there's a whole bunch of others all right there, right, Annie? I imagine myself looking over at Jesus and trying to break the audience's, the novelty of this by saying something funny. It helped maybe even me relax a little bit. I say, Jesus, you are the only friend of mine big enough to have both a major religion and a swear word named after you. Look at him, I say. Another Jew in Hollywood. Yet this friend of ours who just celebrated his 2000th birthday, and all the press photos look so European, so white, so young. But then I want to get serious. I imagine myself pausing to say, although I appreciate all the nice things that John, the gospel writer, and Aquinas had to say, we have before ourselves a man today who experienced and delivered so much joy that it's understandable that so many in this panel would confuse him with the source of their own inner delight, the own innate delight available to all of us. Looking down at Jesus, I'd say, you were so impressive they granted you a virgin birth. Yet to me, it was not your birth that transformed the world, but the balance of the way you lived your life, and maybe a little bit of exaggeration. For me, beyond the glitz and glamour of tonight, the way you've been portrayed in your press packets, the Gospels, and on the big screen lately, the key to properly remembering you, my friend, is to bear in mind that your goal in life was to bring the good news to the poor, to the brokenhearted, and to make the blind see. To the migrants, to the down and out. Although you've always spoken to us through your admirers across the years, I've always found you a friend, a model, and an ally in the very simple struggle to challenge what I accept about myself and the social blindness of my age. You truly are, as Steve Fritchman, UU minister back a few decades ago, who led the LA church of over 3,000 people during the dark age of the McCarthy era. He said, you were a man by precept and example gave the most disenfranchised a sense of their own dignity, and in doing so, showed us the near infinite potential of a human life. Jesus, you're thought of as apocalyptic by many in this room because you're expected to return in a rush of power that ushers in an end times and a whole new era. But the true meaning of apocalyptic, and like it, your real gift is to lay bare, to expose what is true. You are powerful because you gave it all away. And because you are the only central figure of a major religion to have ever been executed. Think about that, everyone. You sitting here, you at home in front of the television. Jesus, just like the rest of us, was stripped bare by the world. My friend, returning to him next to me, that is most what I love about you. See, of all the miracles I've heard about, the moment in your lifetime of achievements that most impressed me was that night in Gethsemane when you faced with the biggest challenge of your life. You were human enough to beg that your responsibility be taken away. We get that. And isn't that in our imperfect lives all anyone can ask of themselves? It's that we follow through with our highest calling. Didn't expect to get this emotional, sorry. I love Jesus, so there we go. Each time I hear the Gethsemane story, no offense to the writer of the Gospel of John, and no offense to Paul, who's here tonight, or any others who think of you more as like a friendly ghost. When I hear this story, I'm faced with the bold truth that there is no mystical solution. That to be fully human, I must accept the suffering of the world and of my life, like our friend the Buddha speaks about. Head held high. Jesus, watching the small fragments of your life that others have passed down to us, I don't get all the truth or the solace or the comfort I ever need. I don't. But I do learn something about the path to strength, and I suppose something resembling salvation or enlightenment. It's not found in fancy words, following purity laws as you railed against, or even titles like minister. To me, you said in word and deed that the very key to life, to see my existence broadly enough that I'm not that different from my neighbor. That's your message. No offense to you, Paris Hilton, sitting there in the front row, but that's hot. Only remembering that it's possible for me to avoid retreating to false comforts, but to live joyfully with the full pain, misery, and injustice of the world. At this time in our human life, collectively as a species, Jesus, you remind me to be the kind of warrior that doesn't make the news, but to be first a soldier and hero of my own character. Watching you reminds me that the first act of heroism is the covert act of quietly and lovingly performing reconnaissance on the shadowy places in our own hearts. Maybe I get you wrong. Maybe everyone else is right. Maybe your power is more cosmic than about character. I don't know. But to me, in this age, we know a lot about the damage we're doing to the environment. The starving children, the landmines, the economic inequality. For me, you are an important line of defense. Not that I know, but that I care. And that I act about what I care about. As Emerson said, the very person who, as much as anyone, dragged my fellow Unitarians away from the Christian tradition suggests your life remains the best document of the power of character we have. From you I learned that spirituality is not about being taken up to the mountaintop, although you did do that, but living with the full impact of the situation. Being in relationship with you gives me more courage to make my own life important. You're the best chance I have of molding my despair into action and of mustering the energy up it takes to try to make Earth heaven. You taught me that a life well lived will not guarantee me comfort, hardly, but will call me to joy, grief, and a great purpose that burns at the core of my being. And maybe for all of us here tonight, here in a world unmistakably fractured, the future depends on our ability to face the trouble we face without getting lost in delusion and myth. Oddly enough, that is, to me, your message. So, you, my dear friend, may not be my only religious confidant anymore, but you are my oldest. Congratulations on a Lifetime Achievement Award. Amen. Annie's going to sing for us. I'm going to skip the reading. Annie's going to sing for us, What Did Jesus Say?
So, just going along with.
Oh, all right, I'll do the reading.
We had something else.
They want me to read the reading, which, give me a minute here. It's called They Knew. In Luke it says, chapter 23, verse 34, forgive them, for they know not what they are doing. I believe him about a lot of things. Love your neighbor as yourself. Turn the other cheek. Cross the street to help someone your friends despise. But I don't believe him, Jesus that is in Luke, when he says that those who crucified him didn't know what they were doing. They knew, just as I know not to look into the eyes of a beggar lest I see myself. They knew, just as I knew how to get even. They knew, just as I know the cost of speaking up for the outcast is high. I've lived a different truth, and someday I hope someone will forgive me, or I will learn to forgive myself by doing better the next time, as he did. That's the reading. Sing us something, Annie.
I have a little tongue-in-cheek kind of thing for an actual Unitarian.
Okay.
Let me know if you don't have I call it the hymn. Anybody else? No? Okay. Yeah.
We're good.
So, I just want to say that coming into the service today, as a musician my whole life, and somebody speaking in front of people.
Use the mic, yeah. People at home can't hear you.
Being a musician my whole life, being in front of people, I had to say that after what happened in Russia, I didn't have words. I thought, Annie, what kind of song, what can you, there was such despair to think that not only there, but all the other countries that, anyway. I have, this is a little tongue-in-cheek. I thought it'd go along. So I know sometimes people think, oh, Annie just grabs the songs out of the air. Not true. Sometimes it's a long time for those to filter into my heart. So I'm actually going to play this. You can sing along. Dana Kurtz, Unitarian. I was going to do it by myself, but nobody could do it as good as her and her partner.
Power on.
Okay.
Bluetooth connected.
Just like at the Vatican. What's that? It's the Oscars. That's right.
All right, now. What did Jesus say? What did Jesus say? I've been reading on my Bible. What did Jesus say? He didn't say nothing about abortion. He didn't say nothing about abortion. What did Jesus say? Judge not, lest ye be judged. Judge not, let ye be judged. Judge not, lest ye be judged. What did Jesus say? I've been reading on my Bible. I've been reading on my Bible. I've been reading on my Bible. What did Jesus say? He didn't say nothing about our bathrooms. He didn't say nothing about our bathrooms. What did Jesus say? We're all God's children. We're all God's children. We're all God's children. What did Jesus say? I've been reading on my Bible. I've been reading on my Bible. I've been reading on my Bible. What did Jesus say? He didn't say nothing about a border. He didn't say nothing about a border. What did Jesus say? Welcome, strangers. Welcome, strangers. Welcome, strangers. What did Jesus say? I've been reading on my Bible. I've been reading on my Bible. I've been reading on my Bible. What did Jesus say? Peter Marchand, I think that's who she plays as. Phenomenal. I'd give anything to have him play with me. He probably didn't know any white people. He probably didn't know any white people. What did Jesus say? Love thy neighbor. Love thy neighbor. Love thy neighbor. What did Jesus say? I've been reading on my Bible. I've been reading on my Bible. Well, I've been reading on my Bible. What did Jesus say? I've been reading on my Bible. What did Jesus say?
Off when I'm singing, so. It's a time if you have a sorrow that needs help, share it. You may share it with the congregation, come up and light a candle. We'll pass around the microphone. Please note that it's not a time for political announcements. Pam Kelly, that's for you. And we care for each other by being purposeful and deep, and there'll be an opportunity for other stuff afterwards. In fact, I have a little bit, if anyone wants to gather and talk about Unitarian Universalist history, we always grant that time when I'm here. And if you're a visitor, please make yourself known. Take it away.
My name is Karen Schaefer, and I have both a joy and a sorrow. My joy is I went to the opera yesterday, and it was fabulous, and the new schedule for Pothole Pictures is out. And I picked up more than one copy to share with friends and stuff. Anyway, it was such a joy, even though there was a problem with the hookup because it comes out of New York City and was very windy, and it kept blowing out, and then it would calm down and it would pop up. But still, it was a fabulous, fabulous production. And I have a sorrow that is so deep in me about how the United States was the leader of the free world, and that's why we built the UN building in New York City. And yet we have people living on the streets. We have warming centers for people we have all of these unhoused people, And remember when, after 9/11, when we were capturing all these Muslims and holding them where we tortured them in Guantanamo Bay, and right now there are 7 Uyghurs that are living there who have been completely exonerated. They're Chinese Muslims, and they're just holding them in there. Obviously, they're no longer locked up because they can't find a place to who will take them. I say, let's ask them where they want to live in the United States, build them a home, and find them a job. I mean, we should take responsibility for what we've done. And the other thing, which is the reason why Haiti is so poor and so horrible, is because when they had their slave rebellion, all the slave-owning countries would not trade with them. They didn't want to encourage them. And I think that we should go back in history and find all those slave-owning countries that ban them and then make them pay for rebuilding the country. And they should improve the soil, they should build housing and everything. I think that's what you should do. And that's my sorrow, is that the United States, as the leader of the richest country in the world and a leader in the free world, and also I wanted to add that it was the United States that insisted on having the veto power in the Security Council, as though if we didn't like it, then we would have veto power. But of course, it was used by all these other countries to veto things anyway.
Kate, if you would light a sorrow for people who are hurting from maybe one of the hardest diseases, loneliness, and also a candle of joy for a new child born under very perilous circumstances and things looked really dicey, and who I got to see last night just chortling and totally alive and healthy, and a candle of hope just in his eyes.
All right, we have one candle for Owen to be lit. He has a joy to share. Owen says, the other day I saw a migratory group of 25 song sparrows, many of whom were singing All Out of Time Pell-Mell, which is a Robert Frost quote. And Christine shares, I want to express gratitude and joy for the new and longer time church members, for the last hurrah of winter, and for grandchildren visiting.
I'd like to do that. Morning, church. Thank you for coming. Hope you get home safe with all that ice out there. 2 candles. 1 candle for Julian Assange, for being brave enough to stand up for the truth. They're still trying to get him here. It won't be good if they do. And the other one, I don't know the gentleman's name, but the gentleman that stood up against Boeing, their 737 plane, he went to one hearing, and then he told his family, if anything happens to me, don't believe it. And he was found dead with a shotgun wound in his truck. So there's the people that stand. God bless each and every one of them. Whether you're out there or the people that are holding a sign or speaking their truth or singing a song or being like our friend here speaking at the pulpit, candles for them.
We light one final candle for all that remains unsaid. which is always the biggest candle, all the sorrows and stuff going on for us individually. I invite you to sing our prayers to friends, which should be inside your your hymnal. Tradition of this church to sing this song. Please don't ask me to lead it.
Did we do a collection?
Yeah,
Oh, we already did.
yeah.
Ooh, that got hard.
Annie was lucky enough to have missed the collection, which has added a joy to the candles. Prayer to friends in the hymnal in the front.
To this day I bring my life, born of hope, born of sin, yearning joy where now there's strife. All I have, all I am, help me to see what I must see. Help me to be where I must be. Restless faith abide till all are free. Fill my life, turn my hand.
Please.
I have a closing song, right?
Yeah, but I got a closing words first.
Okay.
Nancy Wood, please join me, would you, in our closing words? Do it together. Hold on to what is good, even if it is a handful of earth. Hold on to what you believe, even if it is a tree which stands by itself. Hold on to what you must do, even if it is a long way from here. Hold on to my hand, even when I have gone away from you. And now, Father alone as our postlude.
No, I thought I'd do something else.
Well, do whatever you want.
They say everything can be replaced. Every distance is not here. Still I remember every face of everyone who put me here. I see my light come shining from the west down to the east. Any day now, I shall be released. They say everyone needs protection. They say every man must fall. But I swear I see my reflection somewhere so high above these walls. I see my light come shining from the west down to the east. Any day now, I shall be released. Standing next to me in this lonely crowd is a man who swears he's not to blame. All day long I hear him shout so loud, crying out that he's been framed. I see my light come shining from the west out to the east. Any day now, any day now, I shall be released. Any day now, anyway now, I shall be released.
May the love that overcomes all differences, which heals all wounds, which puts flight to all fears, which reconciles all who have been separated, be in us and among us now and always. Go in peace, create peace, be peace. Amen.